Welcome to Savvy Business, Life Unscripted, with your host, Christina Rivera, where our guests share their wisdom and valuable business tips, empowering our audience to expand their personal potential.
Hi, Ryan Foland. Welcome to Savvy Broadcasting, Life Unscripted. I'm so grateful to have you here this wonderful Sunday afternoon. We're going to talk about your wonderful book, Ditch the Act. And we're going to talk about the power of authenticity, which your book goes deeply into. And what does that really mean? This word gets thrown about all over the place. What does it really mean? We're going to also talk about building that human connection through platforms like the one we're on right now, Zoom. It's become so prevalent, used in business and just personal connection all through the COVID thing. People had to connect, and it was done through platforms like Zoom. So how do we keep that going? Welcome to the show.
Well, ahoy, it's great to be here. It's a good day to spend a Sunday.
I know. Ahoy, where are they? I love that. Are you a seaman on the side?
Yeah, I love to sail. If I'm not speaking, I'm likely on a boat. It's now lobster season, so I was just out in Catalina Island last weekend hunting for some lobsters, and I really feel that we are so connected, as we're going to discuss today.
Yeah.
For me, to get out in nature is the way to disconnect. And when you're on a boat and everything's moving the whole time and there's a little bit of excitement, you have to be mindful. There's a little danger.
Yeah.
There's a lot of sun. There's all of those elements. I think when I'm in those core elements, I'm in my element. And the words that we choose to use are a reflection of how people will get to know us. And so we often underestimate the power of one single word. And I choose my first word to be ahoy. And it sparked a question. And now we're talking about something that I love to talk about. And so just a little quick snippet for everybody. Evaluate the first word you say. Is it howdy? Is it hi? Is it hello? Is it hey? Is it yo? Is it what's up? And it's like we have all these opportunities for people to learn a little bit about us. And that first word is something. So yeah, you've already learned a lot about me.
Wow. You know, I love that. My husband would totally get a thrill out of this because he loves the power of words and understanding the basic etymology, I think is the word. Etymology,
I
meaning of
won't
words.
question it because I'm not sure. So I'll say yes.
Yeah, okay.
Etymology. Yeah,
Etymology, yes, boom. Yes, he's like, what is the original power of this word? What does it really mean? Because he'll say to me, okay, people might use that word to mean this today as a slang, but what is its original intent and meaning? Because there's something behind that. Words do have power. And so I love that you share that. I mean, because there is so much to what you love. Now, what can people know? Like, they're not even aware of the words that come out of their mouth. How do they get in contact of what they're all about and to use the proper words to get themselves understood with the world out there?
So great question. And it's really the first question in learning how to build an authentic personal brand. Specifically, you have to be aware and listen to the words that you're using, because typically we don't think about that. And then secondly, you have to really spend a little bit of time thinking about what you want to be known for. And I think everybody's smart and they all have talents, and everybody is, I guess, kind of there's this go-getter in general now, where if you need to learn how to do something, you just go online and you can Google it, you can watch YouTubes. That's how I work on my boat. Like, nothing is intimidating anymore because they can always YouTube it. But the reality is that we don't really take the time to focus on that first step. And that first step is something that happens offline. It's something like, do I really want to work on this engine or not? Or do I really want to be known as this or not? Or what characteristics do I want to highlight when I'm speaking with somebody? And that even goes for different situations. So a lot of people, if they're trying to build their own brand or even just be authentic and get people to get to know them or build their reputation, they do the right things in the wrong order. And it's nothing bad. But if you don't take that first step, which is the first correct step, which is to look inward and say, like, how do I want to be known? How do I want people to describe me when I'm not there? What of my hobbies do I want people to learn about? What is that I want to be known for? And so for me, I love being on the water. I love sailing. When I'm scrolling through Instagram, I'm usually scrolling through Instagram sailing photos and underwater adventures and things like that. And so I made the conscious choice to be okay with knowing, as somebody who's a speaker, who's an author, who's a ginger, who's a sailor, And so far, I've already talked about my freckles, talked about my book. I'm here you actually have a lot more control than you think, but you just have to think about it first.
Ooh, this is so fascinating. It's been funny. I love beauty and humor because I find nothing bridges the gap from difficult situations with even any situation and connecting with people using humor. So often I sign off with a little funny meme that brings humor, but also beauty. I love it to be beautiful. And so people was like, oh, I love seeing your memes come through all the time. And I never even thought of it. I'm like, well, I like humor. And so,
Yeah.
but I'm not a good joke teller. So,
Now that right there was ditching the act. And here's
Mm.
here's the magic as we unwind this, right? We were actually talking about the book right now.
Yeah.
You were being vulnerable and honest and exposed the fact that you're not a good joke teller, but you like humor and you like to laugh. And so it would be easier for you to not tell people that. But guess what? I would say the majority of people that you talk to are not good joke tellers. And so you can actually bond with them on that. And so this is an example of how we really, I can't say we because I can't speak for everybody, but in my own experience, it seems like I've lived my life to where I feel like I have to showcase success, or I bring, literally my grandma would give me money for A's that I would bring home. And it's just like you don't share that you got a B. You don't share that you got a C. You definitely don't share if you got an F. And so just culturally, I think, and again, in my own situation, I really believed in showing the success and not showing the weakness. And my dad's a man's man, and we're tough. We're this kind of stuff. And so that machismo, or that not, it's not that we're not being honest. We're we're not sharing the stuff that we don't want you to know.
Yeah.
And I think that the more we become comfortable with these little things, like
Mm.
it's not a big deal to admit that you're not a good joke teller.
Mm-hmm.
But what will actually happen is you'll connect with people who also don't tell jokes well. It'll also give you a chance to get better at joke telling because you've admitted it, and now you can go YouTube it. Now you can work on it. Now this is something that's part of you. So I love the fact that you just ditched the act right there. And sometimes we do it, we don't know it. But when you become more conscious of it, you can use it to connect with people. We're here in our little boxes,
Yeah.
but we're having like sort of idle side talk before we start, and we check in a little bit. All those moments before the show starts, before the curtain opens, it's like you're backstage and you're able to get to know people. That's it. At the end of the
Yeah.
day, when
Yeah.
you ditch the act, you help people get to know who you are. And if they like you, now granted, not everybody has to like you, right? I've got high energy and sometimes that puts people off.
Uh-huh.
But if they get to know you and they decide that they like you, that sets a foundation for trust. And that's how relationships are built. That's how friendships are built. That's how really, truly entrepreneurship works. That's how mentorship works. Do you notice the ships here that we're building?
Yeah. Yeah. Ooh, yeah. More ships. Woohoo!
Bringing it back to the ships. Yeah, it's all about building ships, relationships, friendships, mentorship. It all has to do with your experience and your expertise. And so when you share your experience, especially the stuff that doesn't go right, then people actually will start to see you as an expert. But if you just showcase all of your expertise with no backing of where that goes, people are going to look at you sideways like you're wait, what? How do you? So it's
Wow.
Yeah.
You mentioned something very interesting. I heard a very good podcast by a fitness expert, and he had talked about all his wins. Now, he was talking about the wins because he's been doing this for 40 years, about the people he's trained to go on to competition. So he said, I've won over 900 championships. And what he meant was through the people he's trained, not necessarily him. But it was interesting because he only noted his successes in the way of 900 champions. I saw on his string on YouTube going, oh yeah, sure, 900. I've been doing this for whatever amount of years. That's absurd. And then I thought to myself, that's not what he meant. I mean, that's not how I took it. But people saw it as he was a fraud because he was only mentioning my wins, not how did I get to my ultimate success, where no one stops right at the top here. There was a period of challenge before they got to the top.
Yeah, your experience. And so sometimes I'll ask people, especially on stage or a group of students, and I'll say, what is more important, your experience or your expertise? And I'll sort of add a little emphasis on expertise just to kind of like even reinforce that, like, that's maybe the right answer. And so how many people think experience? And a few hands. How many people think your expertise? And everybody puts their hand up. And it's like, no, I don't agree with that. Because you have to have the experience to get the expertise. And the thing about experience is that you get it just after you need it. You can't get it. You can't get it without going through it. Like, experience is really when things don't go right. If all you're doing is succeeding, you're not really growing.
Yes.
And I really do find, if we're bringing this back to the book, what does it mean to ditch the act? When we share the defeats along the way, and the training, and the blood and guts and sweat and tears and good and bad and ugly to get to those 900 wins, it allows people to see themselves in our story. So I don't think people care as much about your story of success. And in fact, if you do it, it will push people away because they feel like they're not like you. But if you can help people see themselves in your story, then they can relate to you. They can see how, like, we are similar. And so by being humble, by sharing the ups and the downs, it allows you to help people see themselves more like you, as opposed to you on this other level or something like that.
Yeah. This is fascinating, Ryan. Many years ago, I started a blog, 101 Mistakes and What I Learned in Business, for myself. Because I was trying to learn about myself. So I wrote it with the idea that no one's ever going to read this. No one's going to care. 20,000 views on every single blog. Now, this is like probably 12 years now, but that ultimately did become a book I wrote just a couple years ago and published. But it was the scariest thing ever when I was actually putting it into print. Now I'm going to put it out for the great big world to see, because they're mostly my mistakes.
Yeah,
and
they're
all
like amateur hour, right? But you have to be involved in amateur hour if you're going to get to the professional level. And I bet if your blog was titled 101 Ways to Work Out Better, people they wouldn't even worry about it, because like, I want to know the mistakes so I can get through that and get my cadence of failing faster so that I can get better.
Yeah, exactly. And what was this? I used to read this article called, oh God, there was this article in the Flying magazine where their pilots would share their biggest mistakes that almost got them to crash or have big, what's it called? What I learned from that. And I loved reading those, because you're like, oh my gosh, never want to do that. And people really enjoy that, because they're like, it's really meant for pilots or student pilots or enthusiasts, but you never want to go through that. So by people sharing what they've gone through, you're like, I'm not going to do that. And
imagine if training manuals, and imagine if the institution, whatever it is that's training, what if they never shared what went wrong? And what if they just tell you what to do? It really sets up like a house of cards, because people are human and we make mistakes. I literally was getting some leftover spaghetti for lunch just before this, and big long spaghetti loop up, and then it dropped and it went splat, and I had a shirt and just got attacked, like with all of this red spaghetti sauce. And I was like, oh damn. But like, we all spill spaghetti sauce on ourselves. And by sharing that story, you might think of the last time that you spilled it on something. You're like, dude, this guy spills the stuff on us. So it's these little things. The book is about how to do this artfully. I will say there is a way to overshare. There is a way to emotionally throw up on somebody and turn people away. There is a way of actually pushing people to a spot where they don't want to be around you, because you're not ditching the act. You're just like, emotionally,
Yeah, well, I mean, let's talk about social media doing that. I mean, I find, especially Facebook, I mean, I've had fun on Facebook, met past family members I haven't seen forever, and friends, and kept in contact with what's going on in their lives. But there's some things on these social media sites that, I didn't need to know that. I really didn't.
TMI. And so what I believe the trick is to start small. Like you shared that you're not a good joke teller. I came back with something about spilling spaghetti on myself. That's like a level 1. Level 2 is where you're disclosing things, challenges with other people, maybe challenges in a relationship or challenges with a coworker. Level 3 is more like bigger things that you're afraid of. And level 4 are like divorce or just maybe you got in trouble with the law, or like these things that you're really, really afraid of. And so if with your community and the following that you're building, you're sharing these little things, they're like, oh, they're human. Oh, that's just like me. I have those same kind of problems. Oh, damn, that happened to you too? Oh, wow, that happened to you? man, I can see how that was pretty life-changing. And wow, that's where your experience came from. I get it now. Now I see why you're able to speak on that kind of stuff. So it's just like it's this building,
Mm.
right? It's you're always able to do little ones, maybe
Yeah.
a couple little twos. But when you get those threes and fours out there into the world, you really only need to get them out there so that they're out there. And
Yeah.
then you have them, you're getting in front of them. And I'll share what is, it's sad and it's ironic. The gentleman that I wrote this book with, I was good friends with, I was business partners with, we had a lot of good times,
Mm.
but he got to a point after the book was published to where he went to the extreme side of sharing too much, sharing too often, and
Mm.
it was to a point where it pushed me away.
Mm.
So a past friend, a past business partner, whoever it is that you have relationships with, like at any given point, like you can not get along. And
Mm.
for me, the root of that was he fundamentally went against the things that we talked about in the book. And so it's like, how can you say this and then do this?
Mm.
And so it was a really trying period, but it was something that helped made me that much stronger in understanding what was right for me in the relationships. And so the reason I'm telling you this is that sometimes the hardest decisions you have to make and cutting people out of your life or moving on or just
Mm.
moving in a different direction or career change, whatever it is, going through that and being able to share why that happened
Mm.
is a huge part of your experience, which becomes your expertise, which becomes part of who you are, which is something that is life. And we're
Yeah.
all we're all going up and down. So it's
Yeah.
it's a fascinating life experiment to constantly try to open up in little ways so that
Mm.
you can better connect with people.
Well, and not everyone's meant to be there for all seasons. There's a time
Yes. Oh,
where,
I like that. Yes.
yeah, sometimes it's like, okay, we've done our best together, and now it's time to go apart. Not in anger or any malice, but
Yeah.
wish you all the best. Now, when is it too much to share? How do you know yourself when maybe you've reached the point of, oh, you've gone too far and shared too much?
I believe it's when things are extreme.
Hmm.
So it could be extreme drugs, extreme sex, extreme violence, extreme, things that are maybe taboo, extreme, just that extreme level.
Mm.
And I think that extreme is defined differently for different people.
Yeah.
And so something that you see on Facebook, you might be like, wow, that's too much information. Somebody
Uh-huh.
else might be like, ooh, I want to look at this or whatever. And so this goes back to one of the first things that we discussed, which is the
Mm.
importance of knowing yourself. And so this is different for everybody. Like, I don't like scary movies. I'm sorry. Like, I'm not into paying money to have people frighten me. Okay. Like, that's not what I'm into. So that's not on my radar, but people love that. And that's totally cool.
Mhm.
So I know for myself what the extreme things are that I don't want to be around, it's toxic for me. And that's my own personal choice as a result of my life experience. So I think the answer to your question, how do you know when it's too extreme for yourself?
Mm.
You'll know if you
Yeah.
really know what you stand for, what your values are, what your
Mm.
morals are, what your
Yeah.
ethics are, like what does
Mhm.
being here in this world mean to you? And so if you are really like, this is an extreme element, then maybe it's best to talk with a friend about it or with a counselor about it or with
Mm.
your parents or with your loved one.
Mm.
And not everything has to be online.
Yeah. True.
Like like I'm a big fan of therapy. I'm a big fan of talking things out, but like when you're sharing in real time, like emotional things or extreme things in real time, it's not fair to the audience
Yeah.
because you haven't fully processed them.
Yeah.
You haven't fully reflected. So I always encourage people, if you're going to share something that's like a level 2, 3, or 4, like think about it, sleep
Mm.
on it, maybe
Mm.
talk to some friends about it. And then when you share, the best thing to do is share, I really had this difficult challenge where I went through
Mm.
this, and here's where I am now. Here's how I'm coping with it. Here's where I'm getting through it. So if you share it also with the fact that like you're working on a solution,
Mm.
then people don't freak out. They won't sort of jump to call the cops. They won't jump to
Yeah.
think that you're unsafe. And so I think that is where the extreme can be dangerous.
Yeah.
And if you're really challenged or if you're feeling suicidal, that's something you need to talk with a professional about. You don't go shout it out online to sort of like get
Mm.
attention and hope that somebody will call something for you. Now,
Yeah.
again, if you're at that point, you might not be thinking correctly, you know?
Exactly. This reminds me of many years ago, a boss telling me, you're angry, don't type that email. That maybe you type it, and this is a dangerous thing I learned the hard way, is say you're angry at someone, I type an email, don't put their name in the inbox yet. Just type it out and put it in your draft.
Yes.
And leave it there. Because the mistake I made many years ago is I was very angry at a business partner, and I was writing this very, very angry, but I'd put her in the to section, but I wasn't going to email it out. I was just going to type it out, everything I felt.
Yeah. And then accidentally sent?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
It was a horrible conversation on that phone, relationship gone.
Yeah.
But you can't take it back. And that's the thing about social media. It's so easy to just press that post, boom, it's out there, and you can't take it back. If you meant later on, oh, I didn't mean it like that, oh, it got mistaken or whatever, it's out in Twitterverse, it's out in Facebook, and you can't take it back. And I remember
you right there, that's an example of ditching the act. You didn't get too into the anger part, you didn't get into too deep, so like you even acted out with a little rah rah rah. But then you learned that. And I now have that piece of your experience, which adds to my expertise, to where I agree with you, but I'd never thought of removing the name. That's a really good move.
Well, I learned the really hard way. Don't put their name in there.
Right, but see, you learned the hard way, and I learned the easier way through you going through that. And if you never went through that, you wouldn't be able to share it, and somebody else would make that same mistake. And if they didn't share it, then somebody else would make that mistake. And so it's just to this collective, we can all support each other by just sharing what doesn't work.
Yes.
I'll have another analogy here. This is something that I'm pulling a thread on. Are you into blockchain, metaverse, crypto, Web3, anything like that?
I'm not very familiar with all of it, actually.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So I'm very excited about the space and excited about learning how it all works and applying the technology. And I'm a stick figure artist, so I've got stick figure NFTs, and I've got these mini books that I've written. I want to launch them as NFTs and all this stuff. But when you're in this space, it seems like everybody who is in the space, they're talking about that they're total pros at it, that they totally understand it, that they totally know the technology, and all this new stuff is coming out. And what I'm doing in the space is saying hey, I really don't understand this. Can somebody help me with that? I really can't figure this out. What is this thing over here? And I'm finding that by ditching the act and by being honest and saying, I'm really excited about this space, but I'm really lost here. I really don't know what's happening here. By showing up and sharing what you don't know, it allows people to actually help you. And now you otherwise, yeah. Well, yeah, but I still don't get this. Oh, well, here, actually, I'm not actually sure about how it actually works as well. And so all of a sudden, you find out that maybe you don't know that much either. Well, let's find out together. And so I think in these new spaces where it's easy to sort of pretend like you know more than you do, I'm trying to encourage people to show up and share what you don't know as a form of ditching the act. And then all of a sudden people actually are oh, well, yeah, I don't fully understand it either, but here's the podcast I'm listening to. Here's the book that I'm reading. Here's this stuff. And so you can start to grow together.
Yeah, and that's a great idea because no one knows everything, and that's the one thing. Everyone put out a piece of what they know, a little piece. Then we put it all together. It's a big puzzle. We all have greater knowledge. You know what, Ryan? We could go on for hours. I know.
I told you we could talk all day.
Oh my God, I love this book. Where can everyone get a copy and find out more about you? How can they do that?
So for the book, you can find it on Amazon, and you can also find it in Barnes & Noble. If you want to find me, and if you remember my name is Ryan Lyon, because I've got the big mane for those who are just listening, right? My red beard, that's my name is Ryan.
Good visual.
Right? So if you want to find me online, you just go to ryan.online. That's it. It's just instead of a .com, it's a .online. So you can go to ryan.online. You can find out about the book, about me, about my sailing adventures. I've got a sailing podcast called Good Jives for people who are interested in sailing. I've got a World of Speakers podcast where I talk with amazing speakers from around the world. And I also have a 313 podcast where I challenge people about their core messaging for their business. And it's a lot of fun. But ryan.online, that's where you can get me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Ryan, for sharing your great wisdom today and ditching the act. And we can all be authentic, learn together. Thank you so much for coming to Savvy Broadcasting.
for sure. I'm going to go jump in the pool.
Have some fun. Woohoo!
All right. Thanks.
Have a great day, Ryan.
All right. You too.
Like, subscribe, and share this episode. To listen to more savvy episodes and savvy biz tips, go to www.lifeunscriptedradio.com. To find out about our paid sponsorship opportunities or how to become a guest, email Christina at lifeunscriptedradio.com.